All right, welcome everyone to this episode of Monetizing Your Mental Capital. I'm your host, Will Christensen, and I have Dr. Travis Ziegler from Profitable Pineapple. Welcome to the show.
Will, thanks for having me on.
It is a pleasure. Opening question that we asked to everybody: why would an Amazon seller who's looking to monetize their mental capital, scale their business, grow, why would they want to hear from Travis Ziegler?
Well, I'm Dr. Travis Ziegler, former optometrist, eye doctor turned e-commerce entrepreneur. I built a company up to about $500,000 in revenue per month and then ended up selling it for a multi-million dollar exit. Now, what you don't hear about that story too often is the year before that, I was $0 in profit. I had a $3.2 million business at that time, $0 in profit. Looked at myself and I was like, what are we doing in this business? I about sold it for $700,000, which is nothing. And something was telling me not to sell it. So the next year, we built it up to $4 million, raised the EBITDA from zero, it was $20,000, but essentially $0 in profit to $600,000 in profit, made the Inc. 5000 fastest growing company list. And then we ended up getting calls over and over and over again about buying us. And I got a very favorable multiple. It's between 3 and 9. I can't tell you exactly what it is because I'm still under that contract that I can't talk about it too much. And I will get 6 bites of the apple from that sale. Not just the first sale, but we had a second sale, we had a third, we had a fourth, and we will have a fifth and a sixth next year. And I'm 5 years out from that sale. And then I've also built up an agency to a multi-million dollar agency using the exact same strategy I used to build an Amazon brand. And I've also built an influencer brand that we sell a community to $1 million business as well, using the exact same strategy. So it's a strategy that encompasses any business you do it in. And I've done it in a brick and mortar too. So it's this amazing strategy that I implement across all my businesses that works incredibly well. And I call it my perpetual sales machine.
My perpetual sales machine. I think we know the topic of our discussion today and the title of our episode. Um, Travis, I you've got me beyond curious about this perpetual sales machine, which we're going to get into here shortly. My first question for you, though, our second question, since that was the first earlier. My second question is this: when's the first time you can remember monetizing your mental capital?
Man, I mean, I became a doctor. So I guess that's the first thing is right when I got my doctorate degree and became an optometrist.
Okay.
And that was kind of the first one. But I was stuck in
Anything farther
optometry.
back, like think like
Ooh, you
elementary
want me to go way
school.
back?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just curious. We've heard
This will.
everything from selling drugs to doing lemonade to, I mean, all sorts of stuff on this podcast.
So if we're going back that far, I was one of the first pioneers at eBay. This is going to show my age a little bit, but back in the 90s when eBay first started coming out, when you sold an item, you would have to wait 7 days for the check to come in the mail, and
Yep.
then you'd have to cash the check, and then you'd have to wait 7 days for it to cash. Once it cashed, then you'd ship the item. So I sold tons of stuff on eBay. People would bring me stuff, and I'd actually sell it on eBay. And that was kind of my first foray into the e-commerce world. But I also, before that even, I had a lawn mowing business. So I had 5 lawns with my first partner, and that lasted all of one summer. And we ended up splitting the partnership apart. And I took 3 of the lawns. He took 2 of the lawns because he was the slacker to begin with. So I gave him fewer lawns. So those are like the first 2 times I monetized.
Oh my gosh, we've all had partners that only deserved two lawns. Are you a two lawn partner or are you a three lawn partner? That's a new way of describing that. I love it. Those are both fantastic stories. So, from an eBay perspective, you had people just randomly being like, "Hey, can you sell my crap?" And
It was
you
it
were
was mostly people in my neighborhood. So like I lived in a small town and then people found out I was selling stuff on eBay and it wasn't like a lucrative business. It was just like, I was in like 8th grade, I think, and people were just, "Can you sell this?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, I'll try."
nice, nice. Well, you sharpened your saw a little bit there, and I can see that it's, opening up some doors for you here. Um, all right, so imagine for a second that you stepped into a coffee shop with an old friend, and this old friend is from high school. You guys, he's from that small town, right? You had a fantastic relationship, and they start talking about their Amazon business that they've been doing for 4 to 5K a month, and you're like, holy crap, I wonder if he has any idea that I've exited, all the things you said in that, like, why should they pay attention to you? He probably has no clue. As he starts to talk about that, um, you then, give him basically what you gave me and the why should someone listen to you? And he's like, holy crap. Like, how can you help me? Like product listings, optimization, scaling, advertising, reviews? Like, tell me more. What should I be doing?
Yeah, first of all, don't quit your job. That's that's key point number one. So when I started my Amazon business, quote unquote, I don't call it an Amazon business because we built more than just that. We built a whole brand around it. But we decided that we weren't going to take a paycheck from our Amazon business until January of 2017. And we had started it in May of 2015.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it was going to be a full 2 years before we did that. And I'm glad we did because we kept our full-time job that paid all the bills, and we were allowed to take everything in the Amazon business and just invest it back in.
Pour
And what that
back
allowed
into
us
it.
to do is it built it up to about a $1.7 million business in a year and a half. And so we didn't take our first paycheck until we were doing $1.7 million per year, which is a little bit more than 4 to 5 thousand a month. You're
Yeah.
talking about
Okay. All right.
50,000 to 72,000 a year. You can take a paycheck out of that, but you're going to cripple your business. So, but instead, if you waited and said, I'm going to hit this goal, and when I hit this goal, that's when I'm going to start taking my paycheck. We did it by a date. You can do it by revenue. You can do it by anything, really. And we waited till that date, and I'm glad we did because we were doing 1.7 million and we built something incredibly sustainable at that time. And it even led us to selling our practices because we were like,
Right.
we can go all in on this. We
Yeah.
can
Why do we
overtake.
why do we need to keep doing this optometry stuff? Because man, we've got something bigger here.
Exactly. And so that would be the main thing I would talk to them about because I see it all too often. I've worked with hundreds of brands in this space. They start taking money out of their business, either
Hmm.
to biggest mistake number one, start another brand, which is
Hmm.
massive mistake, or to start paying themselves more than they want to. They want that fancy car, they want that fancy house. I
Hmm.
drove a 2007 Chevrolet HHR and a 2007 Chevrolet Impala until I hit $1 million in sales. And then once I hit $1 million, I bought a brand new Chevrolet Volt and it was $38,000. It was great. And that was our big purchase. Like we'd never, our rent was only like $700 a month. We had no car payments. And we bought that car. Finally, after hitting 1 million, we didn't buy our next car, our Tesla, because everybody wants a Tesla. We didn't buy a Tesla until we sold our company for a multi-million dollar exit. So the longer you can delay that gratitude, the better off you're going to be. I can retire now. I'm 40 years old. I could have retired 2 years ago, but I mean, what am I going to do? It'd be incredibly boring. And you're never going to want to retire, but you can always save up now to pay yourself later so you can have freedom later. I sacrificed a little bit now to have a ton of freedom in my future, and I still do that today. I have splurged a little bit more, but I've made a lot more as well. And so make sure you fight that short-term gratification for long-term success.
Interesting. So as you dug into, I mean, that's a serious nugget of success right there. I think letting go of, the fancy car, all of those other things now, because, and I think one of the things that's interesting there is, a lot of that is about working capital. So a good friend of mine, Tyler Jeffcoat, is like fantastic fractional CFO. He talks constantly about return on working capital, right? Like how quickly are you able to put that dollar to work and then get it back from you? So going back to your analogy with or your first business with eBay, like they made it really hard to get that money, right? And that was just part of where the technology infrastructure was at in terms of the check and everything else that went through that. And so it took a while to get that return. And so I think what's fascinating for what you're describing is if you wait for the $38,000 car and you don't get it immediately, you can take that 38,000 and dump it right back into the business. Cause you like there was a point in the business at like 500,000 a year. that you could have gone out and bought that car. You had enough to cover the payment and all of the above. But instead of doing that, you just reinvested back into the
100%.
business.
Yep. Kept the day job, used that to live off of, and just invested all of it back into the business.
What was the time frame in terms of like um how much time did you have to invest to obviously a full-time job? I'm assuming you were doing this kind of nights and weekends kind of thing. How much time did you have to put in to build that brand?
Yeah, so we didn't go in to see patients until 10 a.m. every day, and then we were done usually around 7 p.m. And we didn't have kids at that time. Now we have two kids, but we'd wake up in the morning, we'd work out at like 6 a.m. And then from 7 to 9, we'd work on the business together, my wife and I. And then we'd go see patients, and then we'd come home and we'd work on the business at night. We didn't have a lot of free time at that time because we were grinding because we knew what we wanted. Our future was not being in a brick and mortar office. Our future was having the freedom to do what we wanted, when we wanted, wherever we wanted. And we were so set on that goal. And a lot of people just won't put their foot down. They'll see, oh, that must be nice. They must have got lucky. Like, but they don't see the hard work that happened on the nights and weekends, like you said. And so we worked our ass off for a year and a half just to get that freedom. And it was a combination of luck, it was a combination of timing, but it was also hard work. And we put it in. And most people that I see in this space just don't want to put the hard work in. They think it's
Hmm.
just going to magically come to them. And I'm like, no, you have to actually work. You have to learn how to sell. And I tell everybody, like, if you've never sold $1 million, you don't know how to sell. You can go from 0 to 1 million with one product if you learn how to sell. And I see it over and over again. I've done it in multiple businesses. One product. You can get it from 0 to 1 million, but you have to learn how to sell. That means messaging, copywriting, whatever you got to figure out, advertising, but you have to focus on one thing and one thing only. And we get distracted by everything else and coming out with more products. And this person has a course and this person has a hack and this person has a strategy. And that's the problem is you're just constantly chasing shiny object after shiny object and trying to figure out if that's going to work for you, but you don't give it enough time to make it actually work for you. And you're like right there, but you chase the next shiny object. And so I forget what your question was because this is what I do. I go on rants, but
No, you're good. You're
it's
good. So coming back down to your system, you mentioned like
mhm.
I've now applied this same system in multiple places and it's growing. Remind me the name of the system that you dubbed?
It's PSM for short, Perpetual Sales Machine.
Okay, Perpetual Sales Machine. So you meant, I mean, which ties right into what you were just saying. If you can't learn to sell it, like it's not going anywhere. So what should I be doing to begin to implement my Perpetual Sales Machine?
So here's the cool thing about a perpetual sales machine. Perpetual meaning forever. Sales machine meaning bringing you sales forever. And I don't say this lightly. I say it because when you learn how to sell, when you get the messaging right, you then have to get that messaging out to more people. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And people just don't realize that. Like they try a million different things like I was talking about, but all you have to do is continue to work on the messaging until it hits, until it's converting at a higher rate, until you're getting more sales, you're getting repeat purchases, whatever it is.
Hmm.
And all you do is pour fuel on the fire. And so we can get into the nitty-gritty here in just a little bit, but essentially that's what you have to figure out is messaging first. Once you get the messaging down, we just get more traffic to that message. And then once we get more traffic, we get more sales as a result, and it just increases from there. There's this good analogy. Russell Brunson tells this story, and it's a story where this lady, she runs a Broadway play, and and all she does is she goes into like plays, and she just takes them from like small plays to making millions and millions of dollars. And Russell's like, "How do you do that?" And she's like, "You entrepreneurs, you just don't know what you're doing. See, the problem with you is." You rewrite a new play every single day. All I do is I take this play and I take it on the road, meaning you have a winning formula, and then you come over here and start the next winning formula or try to start the next thing. Or you have a winning play and then you start rewriting a new play. Whereas in all she did was she found a winning play and she just took it on the road. She got more traffic to it. She has this machine that's already making sales. So now I just need to get it out to the people, get more traffic to it. And that's all you have to do. That's the perpetual sales machine in a nutshell. Figure out what's working, get more traffic to it. That's it.
Interesting. So if I were, because I'm actually, this is an interesting discussion. I'm more of a technologist. I'm one of the original Zapier certified experts. I'm building a community right now where we're actually helping entrepreneurs clone themselves, and so I'm pretty heavy on the technology, staffing, service side of the world. And then I run this podcast for Seller Labs. And in my journey, I have always been curious to get into e-commerce and to dig in more deeply there. The majority of my e-commerce experience from a standpoint of selling comes through the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sellers that I've helped build automation inside their businesses. I'm curious how, you go out, if you were to go out right now and start a brand on Amazon, one, would you even do that?
Started a brand on
Or
Amazon?
yeah, would you go, is it too late to be playing that game? Would be my first question. And then two, if it's not too late, what would you do first?
Yeah, it's not too late. I'm at the point in my career that I'm buying brands now. And so starting a brand from scratch is a lot harder. Yes, because it just requires more time. And I would
Interesting.
rather
So
trade
you're
money for
you're
time.
buying brands. I mean, it's actually really interesting because that totally lines up with the strategy you mentioned from the Russell Brunson story, for the lady who takes these plays and makes them $1 million opportunities. You're going out and finding a play that's working, and you're buying that play, and then you're just bringing more eyeballs to it.
I am putting my PSM strategy in place. Yep. So this is my strategy moving forward. I'm actually in the process of building a $100 million company. My goal is to sell it for $100 million by the time I turn 50, which is 10 years down the road. And all I have to do is get to a million in EBITDA this year and
Mm,
then grow by 20 to 30% year over year. And I'll have a $100 million company. People are like, that doesn't math. But when your EBITDA grows, EBITDA also profit. So you can think of it as the same just for ease of this conversation. If your profit grows 20 to 30% and you start at $1 million, you'll have $10 million in profit by year 10.
mm,
And we're also going to buy brands in the middle of that too to even scale more.
right.
And when you have a million in EBITDA, it's only worth a 3x multiple when you sell. So it's worth $3 million. When you have a $10 million EBITDA, it's worth 10x. And so you'll sell for $100 million. So that's our whole plan. But anyway, going back to your question, yes, we are buying brands who I see opportunity, whether it be in the Amazon PPC space, Google Ads, Perpetual Sales Machine, whatever it is. And then we just plug this in. And so our first brand we bought, very small brand because we wanted to make sure we could all work together. This is the partners. And we bought it for $75,000. It was doing anywhere from 50,000 to 200,000 a year, depending on the year.
Mm.
30-year-old brand, legacy brand. Father passed away, kids took over, didn't really do much with it, so we bought it off of them. And all we did is we plugged in the perpetual sales machine strategy, and we're now up to about 30 to 40,000 a month. And it's only been about a year. We actually just celebrated our year anniversary 2 days ago from the time of this recording. So we've already got it up to about 300 to $400,000 a year just by plugging in this PSM. And here's the best part. Here's the kicker, Will. It takes me 30 minutes a week to manage
Okay,
because
yeah,
it's
you've got my attention there. That's pretty interesting.
it's a
What
perpetual sales machine.
so what, like, let's say that I've got access to 50 grand, 75 grand to go purchase a brand like that. That's obviously a pretty small one. What would I be looking for in a brand that's already got some basic chops to it?
So I am a consumable guy. I love consumables, specifically supplements. Supplements are my game because supplements usually solve a pain point. And I love products that solve problems. I do not like plastic widgets from China. It's just a matter of time what you're buying there. If you buy like a plastic widget from China opportunity, it's just an opportunity. It's not a brand. You're buying somebody found a gap in the market, exploited the gap, and once China finds that gap, it's going to fill in. And that's, you hear all the horror stories about people selling on Amazon. It's because you weren't an entrepreneur, you were an opportunist.
Mm.
You saw the opportunity, and I took advantage of this too. I first came out with a sunglass company, and I realized that I'm selling plastic from China, and this is going to get saturated really fast. So I went in and I created a dry eye brand, a brand that serves dry eye sufferers, as in dry eyeballs. And we came out with products all around that person. So when we created this brand around a problem, not a product, a problem,
Mm.
that's when everything took off for us. And that's when we were able to sell that dry eye brand. The sunglass company we built up to about 3.2 million, and then we kind of ignored it and it kind of just started sinking. I think last time I saw it, it was doing like 500,000 a year, which is still great, but not 3.2 million. But the dry eye side is what took off to about 500,000 a month. And that's what we were able to sell because it solved a problem, it had subscriptions, lots of subscriptions. We built up an email list using the perpetual sales machine method to 150,000 emails. We had a Facebook group that was about 24,000. And we built this whole community around a problem. And
Around
then
dry
our
eyes.
products solved them.
Interesting. So, if you were to give me advice to go out and create a brand or dig into something like that, you would say go find a problem that you know a fair amount about and go begin to build a brand, a community, a Facebook group around that piece of it to the point where you can gain the audience and then start building products to serve that audience from there.
Yeah. So the biggest question I ask entrepreneurs when they're like, what should I do? What should I come out with? I always say, what could you talk about for the next 20 years every single day? And that's what you need to build your brand around because you're passionate about it. Your customer is going to feel it. And whatever that is for you is what you need to come out with. And that will be a successful brand because you're passionate about it.
Interesting. So this debate, I think, that goes on in the world today in terms of looking at the whole side of like passion versus opportunity versus like there's been a lot of debate, I think, about, how passionate do you need to be about something in order to actually be successful at it as an entrepreneur? And in your mind, it sounds like you're saying pretty passionate.
Yes and no, because you can be passionate about making money. And so a lot of entrepreneurs are passionate about just making money. And so then become a salesman because you'll be great at sales because you love money. And so that's essentially what e-commerce game is it's sales. And you have to love what you're doing, but it could be a love of money. And I know lots of entrepreneurs that just love money. And so they'll come out with product opportunities or byproduct brands that just help them make a lot more money because they have a system they can plug into to make a lot more money. And so,
So if
go
if
ahead.
if I'm in that boat of like I just love money, I think there's several of us out there that like money a lot.
I love
Um,
money.
I love money. Not afraid to say it. Um, what should I be looking for? Because you mentioned like what's one thing you could talk about every day for the next 20 years, and I came up with like four things in my brain. Automation, ADHD, mental health, delegation, like that. Those are all things that I'm wildly passionate about. They've been a life's mission for me to figure out better ways to help more people, do all of that sort of stuff. If I was more in the category of I didn't have my passion was making money, what am I looking for?
Yeah. Do you want me to go on your passions or the make money thing?
Go on the make money thing for a
Okay.
second because I think they're actually going to tie together. What are the you found the problem? So I guess maybe what I'm asking is this: you looked at it and said, you know what, the problem I'm going to solve, or the problem I'm going to maybe not necessarily solve, but educate around, build a community around, is dry eyes.
Hmm.
That's the problem I'm going to focus on. How do you decide which problem to focus on?
That goes back to that question. What can you talk about for the next 20 years of your life and every day and not get sick of it? Because If you love money and you want to focus on, I guess not, mo or you're passionate about making money, sales is the game for you. Whether it's a salesman, like I would go find a sales position at a company and just be like, I'm going to work for you guys for free as long as I can be under the best salesman here. And then you watch the best salesman there. You go replicate that, and then you go on commission only just to learn sales because whenever that yes happens on the phone, that's going to light you up
Interesting.
and you're going to learn sales that way. So if you're passionate about money and making just sales, that's where opportunities come into play. So back in 2014, when it was like crazy wild, wild west on Amazon, it was
Mm-hmm.
just like, let's throw this brand, or let's throw this product up, let's pay for reviews. Let's like that's like your game. Like shiny object, go. TikTok right now. TikTok ads, TikTok shop. That is your game. I like creating brands. I like solving problems. And so I like stability. I really do. It's nice when you have a stable business
Mm-hmm.
versus like, oh, we're up. Now our product's dead. We're down. And so if you're passionate about money and making sales and you're not creating a real brand, you're just looking for opportunities, you're going to be on a roller coaster a lot. But if you're passionate about one thing and you become the expert in that one thing, for you, it could be, don't go out and do this. This is just me off the top of my head, but automation for people who suffer from ADHD, because it's going to help them because as you know, ADHD, people tend to lose focus easily.
Mm-hmm.
I have a son with ADHD, and yes, I
Mm-hmm.
know this very intimately. But I have business friends that have it, and it's like herding a cat. It's like, no, you just got to focus on one thing. One thing. Like I asked him what's going on in his business, and he has like 15 things going on. And I was like, so how do you make money? He's like, I don't. And I was like, well, I see that.
I can see why you don't make money. Travis, that is so it's interesting that you mentioned that. I probably have things right now. I mean, because I'm an automation nut. So like
Mhm.
I currently on my phone have an automation app that's currently running 60 or 70 different flows.
Wow.
And these 60 or 70 different flows do everything from automate. So like, for example, my wife just sent me a message on WhatsApp. If she sends me a message on WhatsApp, I want to see it in less than 2 minutes. Like I want to be like Johnny on the spot for her, right? That's like who I want to be. But I've also got, let's see how many conversations here. I've got like 15 other unread messages inside WhatsApp. And so my brain naturally does not go look at WhatsApp all the time because I know that it's a black hole, right? Like there's going to be something in there. So I was having situations where she would send me a message and I wouldn't see it all day. And then I'd be like, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. And I realized that was communicating to her that I didn't care. And I was like, well, it wasn't that I didn't care. It's that my ADHD was making it really difficult to go look at those messages. So one of my flows, anytime I get a message from her on WhatsApp, it actually triggers a full-blown alarm on my phone. So my alarm goes off and it's like beep 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 beep, beep. And I have to look at it. I can't just ignore it. It's going to go on for 10 minutes if I ignore it. And so you'll like I've got it on my watch. And so like I immediately snooze that sucker as soon as I see it. And I'm like, okay, yep, I got a message from her. And I haven't let her wait for an entire day in a long time. That's
Nice.
just one example of many different automations. Like I got another one that goes off 10 minutes before I'm supposed to be in a phone call. Like if it reads my calendar and if it contains the word Zoom or Meet or any of those things, an alarm goes off on my phone and I can snooze it and then it's going to go off again right at the time I'm supposed to be getting on that call. And if I can't ignore it, I can't miss it.
Mhm.
And then it's just a matter of fighting with all the different notifications and seeing, where that's going. So I'm already doing some automation like that that I've seriously considered turning into apps or other pieces that way. Um, Very interesting.
So what I would do first is I would build the audience and ask them what they want.
Right. Interesting. So where would you build the audience first?
I mean, it depends. So this also goes back to what do you like to be on? Is it TikTok, email, Facebook? So I'm a big Facebook group guy. I love building Facebook groups. But then as I build the Facebook group, I'm also sending them to my email list as well. And so it's a dual build. I call it my $1 million Facebook group strategy, where when I get people to join problem-based Facebook groups, dry eye syndrome support community, natural acid reflux support community. We have another one my wife started. And when they join these Facebook groups, they also give me their email address, which I then plug them into an email sequence too. So I'm getting them into a Facebook group, I'm getting them into an email sequence. And then, depending on how involved you want to be, will depend on the involvement in that group. So the dry eye side, that was our first business we ever created really online. And we just went live every single week and then eventually turned it into every other day. And nobody showed up. We didn't have ads back then, by the way. Nobody showed up for like 6 months. And then all of a sudden it just started, the floodgates just opened. Now you can actually push
Interesting.
ads to your Facebook group, which makes it a lot easier. And
Yeah.
so we're getting leads now into the Facebook group with an email address for like 10 to 20 cents, which is unheard of
Wow.
in today's age. Yeah. So like
10 to 20 cents a lead.
you could create a group called, let's just say automation for ADHD.
Yep.
And then we create a Facebook ad for $5 to $10 a day to get people into that group. We're now in that group. We're then going to collect their email address to enter the group. And then that goes into an email sequence.
What
And
would you
that
put in the
sequence.
email sequence? Just like a basic, like,
So I think an
welcome to the group.
example, kind of. So I think an example, like we right now we have the acid reflux company. That's the brand we just bought. We have a $10 ad going to a Facebook group. Once they get into the Facebook group, it's all about acid reflux, including our products are in there. And then the email list is a drip sequence that just welcomes them to who we are. And then we drip to them. We do a welcome series. It's like 3 to 7 emails, depending on how detailed you want to go. Tells them our story, tells them what we do, who we do it for, I should say, and then how we do it. So, story, what we do, who we do it for, and then how we do it. So that's the product. And so then we'll send them to the product. And then after that, we just drip them out blog flows or product. We actually directly sell the product, but then we just do blog flows. So like we'll write a blog about the best foods for acid reflux, natural ways to help acid reflux. And so you just give them value for what they want. So ADHD group, you're teaching them ways to manage their ADHD,
Yep. Through
either
automation.
supplements, automation, whatever it is, and then you're
Yeah.
dripping that out to them.
Beautiful. So,
That-
um, man, so many different directions I could go asking you some more questions here. I'm gonna narrow it down to this question. Um, when it comes time to ask them, what do you want? Like, what do you want um right now? Like you mentioned, like build the community, then ask them what they want. What does that
yeah.
look like? Do you just post in the community at that point and be like, hey, what kind of products do you guys want? Like how do you do that?
Uh, yeah. So yes, you just ask them. So we're so afraid to ask for the sale. I was actually just on a call with my operator in our investment fund that we're building, and he's in another business as well. And he's got this influencer that has over 1 million followers, but he will not ask for the sale. And so therefore, they're making nothing. And
Mm,
he won't ask for the sale. Now, conversely, like, so let's just say they're making under 100,000 a year
mm,
with this business, and it should be a lot bigger than that. Conversely, a business I created with an influencer, we don't have 1 million, we have about 250,000 followers. Still a lot. All she does is ask for the sale. She goes live twice a day. We have a webinar format that she goes through. It's about 30 minutes long, and then she answers questions. With that, we're 2 months old. We're already up to 30,000 in monthly recurring revenue, and we did
wow.
45,000 this last month. So we're doing almost monthly what they do in a year with a quarter of the size of the influence because all we do is ask for the sale. So we're afraid to ask for the sale. That's all you got to do though, is just ask them, what problem can I help you solve today? And what products would help with that? And then they'll tell you what to come out with. Every product we came out with in the dry eye brand was brought to us from a customer. They're like, you
So
need to come out with this.
oh, they came to you and said you need to come out with this. And did you just make that part of the culture of the community that it was like, yeah,
Yeah.
we're just always going to be available for this sort of thing?
Yeah, because we were live. constantly in that community. You don't have to go live, by the way. We were just live constantly answering their questions, providing value for them. And so we became the authority in the dry eye space for them. They would rather come to us on a live video than go to their doctor. And that's authority. And so influence. And so when we came out with a product, we could
Hmm.
sell anywhere from 500 to 1,000 right out the gate because they trusted us, even if the product sucked, because we had a couple of those too.
Interesting. Interesting. So the way you create that space is just by creating a culture and then some authority to be the person that they ask those questions to.
100%. And like I said, you don't have to do videos. You can just do posts.
I love it. I love it. All right. So here is our final series of questions. If you could call your younger self, so we're making a phone call back to like eBay, Travis. And we're assuming eBay Travis is mature enough. He's very abnormally mature for an eighth grader at this point. So we've waved that magic wand. He's mature enough to actually take in and like internalize whatever you tell him. If I handed you a cell phone and on the other end was little Travis, what would you tell him that might help him dig in and grow more as an entrepreneur?
I have no regrets in my life. I've made lots of mistakes and um man, I can deal with hardship really well because I realize like everything in this life we learn from. And so if I were to go back to that younger self, I would say this is going to sound crazy, but just go all in on your faith because faith has been like the radical transformer in my life after going through all these hardships. It like all goes back to faith. And it's faith in people, it's faith in religion. Like of course religion is like a big part of my life, but it's
Hmm.
also like just realize that more people are good than bad. And if you continue to have that faith in people, you will continue to be rewarded.
Hmm.
And everybody thinks everybody's negative because that's all we see in social media.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, most people are good. And I'd say 95% of people are good. It's just behind a keyboard, people can become monsters. But when you have faith in people and you trust people more, you will take off faster than ever possible. And I struggled with that until probably about 5 years ago, is really like going all in on people. And so now, as I build this $100 million company, it's not about what I'm doing, it's about who I'm doing it with. And so I don't want to be doing the Amazon PPC. So I built a whole team behind that. I don't want to be building websites. So I built a whole team behind that. And I trust people to do what they're supposed to do. And if they don't do it, I'm willing to let them go pretty quickly. I've had a lot of hard conversations. I've let go of my best friends from college. And I be willing to have those hard conversations because on the other side, like when you have faith in people, you have hard conversations with them, everything just takes care of itself. And so that would be my, I guess, talk to my
Nugget of
younger self.
wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah.
I Man, so many things. Running this, we're essentially a recruiting firm. We find these young, hungry entrepreneurs, and then we pair them with overwhelmed entrepreneurs. So think Amazon seller who's having a hard time fulfilling everything. They've gotten the brand to a certain point, but they failed at hiring a VA or different things like that. That's kind of who we help in our process of identifying like different tests that we could give people and pushing on them from the standpoint of trying to find the right types of people to do this pairing, we discovered the same thing you did, which is there are amazing people out there in the world. And two, if it's not a good fit, faster is better. Like if your gut's starting to say, I don't think this is gonna work, probably need to move on that faster than you think you will. And have those hard conversations, like you just said, like really let go of some of those different pieces and let go not only of that individual, but then find the right person and let go of control.
Yep. 100%.
All right. tips, tricks, hacks, or books you've found that have helped you grow your business over the last couple of years.
The last couple of years, masterminds. Don't worry about,
Masterminds.
I mean, books are great. I love filling in with books all the time. And if I said a book right now, it'd probably just be one that I've recently read. But masterminds, by far, I've spent probably close to $700,000 in the past 10 years on masterminds.
Wow.
Um, and every time it levels me up. So I just joined a mastermind last week, actually. And I think your boss is in it. Um, Nathan from Seller Labs.
Oh, yeah. So Nathan, so interesting. He actually purchased a portion of Seller Labs and
Yep.
turned it into his own agency, AO2 Marketing.
Yep.
And so he is not directly related to me anymore from that perspective, but I know Nate very well. I think he's an awesome
Got
dude.
it. So I met him last week and joined that mastermind that he's a part of. And it's all about mergers and acquisitions. So find where you are, find that mastermind that's the next level up, and join it and be the dumbest person in the room. So that I went to the conference last week. It was all about mergers and acquisitions, which I'm getting into. I've done 7 in my life so far, not knowing what I was doing. And now I just joined a mastermind, and that's all they do. And so I'm like, oh, now I'm going to learn from the best at this, billions and billions of dollars of deals. And so find that mastermind that's just a level up. I have a mastermind that's for people that are doing 100,000 a year to a million a year. And we focus around consumables, but there's masterminds for beginners. There's masterminds for 100,000 to a million, like mine. There's ones for a million and up. And there's a mastermind for every level you're at. And so find it, pay to be in it because it's not going to be cheap. I think mine is 12,000 a year or $1,000 a month. The one I just joined was $33,000 for 4 months. And so it was very expensive for just 4 months. The like, one I was in last year was 50,000 a year. I don't say this to brag. I say
No,
this because you have
people
to
need to
invest
understand
in
what you're
you.
willing to invest in you. Yeah. And I've heard that before from many people. Be the dumbest person in the room.
Hmm.
Like that is there is no faster way for you to grow than to be the dumbest person in the room. And so if you're not finding yourself as the dumbest person in the room, it's probably time to leave that group and go find the one where you are.
Yep, exactly.
Travis, it's been a pleasure. How can people reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, Facebook's the easiest platform, Dr. Travis Ziegler. Profitable Pineapple is our brand name. You can go to our website at profitablepineapple.com. You can apply to work with us. I also have a free PPC course. It goes over all of Amazon PPC and it goes in depth, step by step around my perpetual sales machine strategy. And so you can actually see that step by step, me implementing it for Dr. Barry's, which is the brand we just bought. And it's free on YouTube. It's a 6 hour video. It is probably the best free course you'll ever go through in your life. I say that because I've had tens of thousands of Amazon sellers go through it. And so go check that out, profitablepineapple.com.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I will definitely be passing that on to a few people and we'll put a link in the show notes to that. So appreciate your time, Travis. It's been a pleasure.
All right, thanks, Will.